Prehistoric Root R1 of all modern Europeans. As said, in the Americas, among Indigenous Americans this prehistoric Root R1, M173, is now the most common haplogroup after the various QM242. This especially so in North America in Ojibwe people at 79%, Chipewyan 62%, Seminole 50%, Cherokee 47%, etc. This Root R1, M173, that is frequently found in the Americas amongst Native Americans, is not from colonizing Europeans, simply because this prehistoric Root R1 in the colonizing Europeans is and always was absent. Prehistoric R1 among Indigenous Americans is proven but controversial for consensus. The presence of prehistoric haplogroup R1 among Indigenous Americans groups is a matter of controversy only for consensus, however very important since it is the most common haplogroup. Some consensus authors pointed to the greater similarity between Haplogroup R1 subclades found in North America and those found in Siberia, suggesting prehistoric immigration from Asia and/or Beringia. But this piece of consensus is no longer defended by consensus, because amongst others Haplogroup Q is older than Haplogroup R. See above, meaning that the Amerindians would have had to evolve back, and that is impossible. Until here we just informed facts. Facts that illustrate something important, namely that, A, or consensus does not inform correctly, and or B, the general public does not want to face the facts and science. From here on we will present and involve some of our hypotheses. We claim out of Americans had arrived with the intention to destroy forests and the climate in Europe, and to extinct all native Europeans, all with the intention to turn over the native Europeans and take over Europe and Western Eurasia. If there really had been out of Africans with the supposed Neanderthal fraction, they would have been extinct at this point, which is an additional proof that, the whole narrative that all non-African modern humans are out of Africans with mitochondrial Eve DNA. Homo sapiens, that interbred with Neanderthals somewhere in the Middle East, roughly around 50,000 years ago, is not true. This combined with the fact that the origin of all humans, and the roots of Y DNA Q, C, and R always were in the Americas, and already carried the so-called Neanderthal fraction, proves that also the Beringia land bridge standstill also is not true. Further we claim that the out of Americans before had been thriving so much or so long, that they ended up running out of some of the for them essential resources, and all because ocean levels were rising by 120 meters. Like Atlantis submerging, and or struck by disease. Hybridization in America from Q to R1 to Steppe R1a+, corded ware and Bell-Beaker R1b. These dedicated hybridizations took place exclusively in the Americas. A. From Q to R1. B. From R1 to the migrating and navigating Steppe R1a. And C. From R1 to the migrating and navigating corded ware culture and Bell-Beaker culture, Balkan, and Greek people and cultures, all being R1b. Steppe R1a and Greek R1b will both be involved in the Sea People attacks, which will cause the Late Bronze Age collapse, and the indirect loss of power of Ramses III in Egypt. The four groups would A. Overtake or B. Integrate themselves in what would remain of the Bronze Age cultures. After the collapse and changes in metallurgic technology, the four groups brought from the Americas, practiced and spread metallurgy, that led to the subsequent Iron Age across Europe, Asia, and Africa, this during the first millennium BC. Phoenicians and others, who also were out of Americans as well as the Indo-European speaking groups and people, enjoyed increased autonomy and power with the waning military presence of Egypt and Assyria in West Asia. The Iron Age, from 1200 to 550 BC, is the final epoch of the three historical Metal Ages, after the Chalcolithic and Bronze Age. Its dates differ by world region. The Iron Age is often described as a second agricultural revolution, although not a complete replacement of the Neolithic Revolution, the first agricultural revolution. Iron tools like plowshares and sickles made farming more efficient and enabled the cultivation of tougher soils, leading to increased crop yields and freeing up time for other activities. The Amerindians that are now in control of the most strategic places, together with the Iron Age agricultural revolution, would cause agriculture to become more intensive and consequently more unsustainable, and once more this would build up negative effects for soil fertility and consequently caused or increased climate challenges once more. If one looks into the temperatures around the Iron Age agricultural revolution, one can detect that a continuous temperature rise follows the developing agriculture once again, and again not the other way around, as most assume. In the Iron Age the temperature rise is less clear than during the Bronze Age. Nevertheless there are peaks above the medium of the time, at the beginning and end of the Iron Age.